Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about data annotations in ASP.NET Core. Data annotations are attributes that can be applied to model properties. They are a key feature of this framework because they help you control the behavior of your code and make your application more robust, reliable and maintainable. What they actually do, or some of their exact functions, are validating the data entered in your application by its users, formatting the display of the model's data in the user interface, or specifying how data is mapped in the database. We have used data annotations in this YouTube series when specifying the foreign keys in order to connect models with each other. But in this video, I'm going to show you a few main examples of data annotations that you should know and that could be very useful. So I have just created a simple model and a controller, and I'm just going to focus on what the data annotations do. So I will just skip the parts when I add migrations and update the database after each example that we do. The required data annotation basically tells you that the model cannot be created without having this property. So I'm going to need to import the data annotations on top of the models page. So if I try to create a person model and I leave the first name property empty, we're gonna see that we will get an error. So we can see that this is an auto-generated error message that basically tells us that the field is required. But what I'm gonna show you now is how to make I'm also going to show you that inside any data annotation, you can specify by yourself the error message. So if we write here error message, and inside parentheses, we can write what we want to show to the user in case the data annotation is not fulfilled. So we can try to do this thing one more time to create the form, and we will see the error message that we just wrote there. So you must input a first name, which is basically what we wrote in the model. If we write the name here, we can try and we'll see that the form or the model will be created as shown in the table here. The next data annotation that I'm writing here in the age property is the range, where we basically specify the minimum and the maximum integer. So we can input in the age property, we can input a number between 18 and 35. If we try to fill here the first few lines, and if the age is over 35, it won't be accepted. We'll see an error, this auto-generated error message that the field must be between 18 and 35. We can try and put another data annotation in the first name property, where we will define the minimum length of characters that the property must have. If we input here a first name with 4 characters, it will be accepted, but if it has, we can see there the error message, if the length is lower than 3, it won't be accepted. In the email property, we will write the email address data annotation. This is a data annotation that basically specifies a specific format for the input. So if we input something that is not constructed as an email, it won't accept it. So this is not very specific. It doesn't validate if the email actually exists, but it only checks, as we can see here, the mikemiller.com won't be accepted, but mike@miller.com will be accepted. So it just checks for an @ sign and for a dot sign. Again, this won't be checking if the email is actually true, but it will only check the format or the structure of the string that you input in the email. We can try and create the form and it will be created, even though the mike.miller.com is not a real email. In the last name attribute, we will try the display data annotation, where we can specify the name of how this property can be displayed. So here we can see that we don't see here last name anymore, but we see what we wrote there in the display data annotation. And this actually happens because when we create our form, we have a label with a ASP4 attribute, which basically takes the name of the property, but if the property has a display data annotation, it takes the name of the display data annotation. Another data annotation that I think is important is the compare data annotation. This we can use when we have to write a password in a form and then we want to confirm that password. So if we create two properties, one with password and one I'm naming it confirm password, we can write the data annotation compare to password here above, which basically won't accept an input if the confirmed password is not the same as the password above. We can try this here. And when we go to the password, we should make sure that the password and the confirmed password are the same. So if we try below and make a false confirmed password, it won't be accepted. So if the password and the confirmed password are not the same. If they are the same, this will be accepted. But to display the passwords better, actually we can go to the create view page, and in the input tags we can write there the type of the input and make it as type password. This basically won't make the password visible. This is not exactly the purpose of this tutorial, but just in case, just that so you know. Here you can see how the password is displayed now because the type of the input is set to password. Another data annotation that could be used is the hidden input data annotation. Here you can see that we don't see an input for the email. We only see the label now. This basically is not very useful in our case here, but before it was used to make the ID property not visible. Now it is not visible by default when we write the int ID property. Another data annotation I thought I'd show you is the not map data annotation. Basically what this means is that this data annotation won't be stored, this property with this data annotation won't be stored in the database, but you can take their value and display it in your application. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm just writing it a string where I'm just fusing together the first name. I'm just writing the first name and the last name. I'm taking them as variables. So this is useful in case I just want something, I could input there the age. If you want a specific column in your table that has multiple data, we can go in the view pages here, in the index view pages, and there we can have the full name property be displayed. here and below as well. If you go to the home page here, okay, as you can see, we have a full name column that fuses together the first name and the last name property. So these were the data annotations in ASP.NET. These were just a few of them, but it was important to know what they are and what they are used for. If you want something specific or if you want to go in more detail, you can just open the Microsoft documentation online. Thank you so much for watching and make sure to stay tuned for the upcoming videos.